Good morning, Dan.
Good morning. Looks like we're still waiting for a couple more committee members to show up. Since it is about meeting start time, and it looks like we have some applicants here. I can go through our process and procedure slides, and then hopefully we'll have quorum by the time that's done. You can call things to order, Doug. That sounds all right.
Okay, good.
All right, so this is the March 7th, 2024 meeting of the Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee. To go over the virtual meeting regulations and procedures, the meeting shall be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by roll call vote. Recusal due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the start of any presentation. That committee member will then leave the meeting for the duration of the case discussion. No presentation will be submitted. No presentation submissions will be accepted after the deadline. The chair will call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call of the committee. The administrator will introduce the first project and provide some background information if applicable. The meeting will then be turned over to the applicant to proceed through the presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the committee. Once the presentation is concluded, the administrator will read and receive comments. The committee will then begin deliberations of project review. Please use the raised hand feature if you'd like to speak. After deliberations and review concludes, the committee will render its recommendation and vote. After the vote, the applicant may leave the meeting and the administrator will introduce the next project. All projects will follow the same format until all projects have been heard by the committee. Once all projects are heard, the chair will call for any committee/administrative reports. Then after all reports have been heard, the chair will adjourn the meeting. Regarding community comments, any and all community members may provide their written comments, thoughts, or questions regarding the projects presented to the committee for review and approval. Community members may also telephone their comments or questions to the committee administrator. All comments, thoughts, or questions must be submitted to the committee administrator no later than 48 hours prior to the start of the meeting. Again, submissions can be made by email, phone, or dropping off or mailing something here to City Hall. Public comment or submissions made after the deadline will not be heard by the committee. Public comments will be collected by Landmark staff and sent to the committee members for review prior to the scheduled meeting. Staff will then summarize the received comments during the meeting. The applicant of the project is under no obligation to answer any community questions. Community members are invited to attend design review committee meetings, but there will be no open public comment period. Just as a reminder, we are reviewing all these projects for their adherence to the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, and these are being considered for the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. All projects are considered on a case-by-case basis, and the Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee is advisory to the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. Recommendations by this committee are not final actions. Depending on the scope of the project, submissions may be approved administratively or will need to be reviewed by the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. Projects will be scheduled at the next available commission meeting after an action is taken if they go that route. So with that, it looks like we have quorum now. So Doug, if you want to call the meeting to order, I can do roll call.
Yes, let's call this meeting of the Ohio City Design Review Committee to order. And Dan, would you please call the roll?
All right, Ms. Flaherty. Mr. Frandorf. Ms. Lamb.
Here.
Ms. Marinucci.
Here.
Mr. Persons.
Here.
Mr. Taylor. And Mr. Webb.
Here.
All right, Mr. Chair, we have a quorum. So the first case is case OC 23-47 at 2805-07 Bridge Avenue. This was kind of we've seen this before. It was tabled by the committee on September 21st, 2023, so it'll need to be untabled. But this was presented kind of in conjunction with another project, and they kind of split. That one was approved, this one was tabled. So we're vaccinating this one. So if someone wants to make a motion to untable, we can have Mr. Huxley start his presentation.
I'll make a motion to untable.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Dan, please call the roll.
All right, Ms. Lamb,
Yes.
Ms. Marinucci,
Yes.
Mr. Persons,
Yes.
and Mr. Wall.
Yeah,
All right, Mr. Chair, the motion passes. So, so we'll hand it over to Rick Huxley, who's representing the project here. So, Rick, I have your presentation up on screen. If you just want to let me know when you want me to advance through the slides, I can do so.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Back in September, we talked about this briefly when you reviewed the rear porch addition. And subsequently, I've put a little more detail together, including, and we have submitted the entire project to the building department for plan review. But anyway, I was able to find this aerial photograph that's kind of in the center of this sheet that shows that there was indeed a railing on the entire porch. And I also have a photograph here that shows where the pockets for the top rail came in. And I think it's fairly straightforward. Can see on to the bottom right of the sheet as well where the posts were in the porch roof. So we would just request that you would approve reinstalling this rail as we've designed it. I think the owner of the building, Trevor, might be one of your call-in people. I'm not sure, Trevor, if you're here, if you want to say anything. Don't know. Don't know if he was able to get on or not, but. So that's pretty much the story. And I'll certainly take any questions if you have any, so.
How tall? I know that I see the measuring tape, but I can't make out how tall that post is there.
That's not a post, that
I'm
is,
sorry, the spindle.
yeah, that's just one of the balusters.
Mm-hmm.
The other sheet that he had up previously for my resubmission was a detail down at the bottom that shows. And so the residential code is a 36-inch height. So we're showing a 36-inch height rail with just some very simple wooden posts, a little bit higher, 42 inches higher. So we don't know exactly what was there. So we're going with the basic preservation standard idea, is just keep a very simple kind of solution to it. So.
So then what are the dimensions of the spindles?
How high are they?
Or no, how wide are they?
They're the square part on the top is 2 inches. And what he did, the owner had some made that replicate the ones that are on the bottom porch that you can see in the photograph. So he just assumed he should just match what was there. So that's what those are.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
and referring back to that detail at the bottom of the page, the section detail through the porch rail, I can't quite make out what is the post just a square, like a 4x4 post with a chamfered top edge or something? I can't quite see what that detail is. Oh, okay, that's better. Thank you, Dan. Such as a square post with maybe a chamfered top edge.
yes, just, I'm proposing just a squared post with a chamfer. I'm opening up my own file. And, what have I got for that? Yeah, I'm just showing a square 6x6 post, basically, with a chamfered top.
Okay. And this porch rail is the only thing we're being asked to review or approve today, is that correct?
Correct. You've already approved the back porch at the previous meeting in September.
And what about painting, colors, so forth? What are you proposing for that?
He has not decided in terms of colors for the paint. The assumption would be he's just going to match what's there now. I don't know what everybody's thinking of those colors are. I don't know when they were done. I can't attest to them being historical colors, but that's what's there now. So,
Well, I would go along with supporting, say it's gonna match the color scheme of the house, but I think before going to landmarks, we should, get them to commit to, oh, the rail is this color, the balusters are some other color, or whatever, whatever the proposal is more specifically.
okay.
Can I ask a little bit more about the corner posts and you've got a note there calling out a cap and trim, but you're talking about doing those fairly simply. So are you capping those posts so that they don't have end grain skyward?
My assumption would be is that they would have a simple covering on them, to keep the water out of the end grain of the post. I have no idea what was there originally. I just do not. So,
Okay. I think, looking at that aerial, it looks like there's something fairly substantial as a cap on those posts, at least previously. So I think just doing something echoing that substantial nature of what's capping that post would be more appropriate than what's shown on that detail. But that's my only.
so what are you thinking in terms of size that you think
So
would
if
be?
that's a 6x6, if it was call it an 8-inch square with a top, four-sided top bevel with maybe a cove underside trim to tie it back into the 6x6, something fairly simple so that it doesn't overpower what else you're doing on this railing. It doesn't have to be, anything crazy, but just it would also increase the longevity of that post.
Right. Yeah, I was assuming that we would have just a simple top on it. So,
Any other questions or comments from committee members? All right, if not, would someone care to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve with the understanding that the color scheme should be determined and the recommendation to have a larger cap on the posts.
Great, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Dan, please call the roll.
All right, Ms. Lamb,
Yes.
Ms. Marinucci,
Yes.
Mr. Persons,
Yes.
and Mr.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Chair, we have, I guess the motion has been approved. So, Rick, you should be good. I don't I think we can handle this administratively from here, but I will be in touch with next steps. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Good luck. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have case OC 24-08, 2037 West 25th Street. It's signage for salon lots. We have someone here representing this project.
Hi.
Yep, yeah, looks like it. Okay, yeah, if you just want to go through your presentation, let me know when you want me to switch slides.
Okay. This first slide is just showing where the signs are going to be on the building. The next slide shows the east elevation. There are two signs that we're installing. One is the first salon lofts. Those are LED 12-inch channel letters that will be attached to the bottom of a raceway that then we will attach to the building. The second sign is an illuminated double-faced blade sign. It is 2 foot in diameter, and that will be illuminated with LEDs as well. On the next slide, just showing you the fabrication specs, mounting holes, LEDs, and how we're going to attach using Tapcons. Next slide. This is the fabrication of the logo, which is for the west elevation sign. And that just shows the LEDs and the mounting holes. Next slide. This is more fabrication of the acrylic face with the LEDs. So you can see how those are fabricated. Next slide. This, oh, that's the same elevation. Okay, let's try the next one. There we go. The west elevation. This is where we will be installing a 2 foot 6 inch round logo. Will be illuminated with LEDs, and then the words salon lofts. Those are 10-inch channel letters, LED illuminated, and those will be installed flush right to the fascia. And there's the fabrication of the east elevation channel letters that will be installed on the rail. And I think that's all I have. So just 3 sets of signage that we'll be installing at salon lofts.
Can you go back to the blade sign for a minute? And I did not see any indication or drawing of what the mounting height is proposed to be.
Okay. I don't see that we have noted this on here. I can let you know what that mounting height is so we can make sure that we are clear with any pedestrians that might walk past that little area right there. So we can add a stipulation that I will get that for you guys.
Well, it also looks like if I look at the existing photograph, the columns look like they have light fixtures mounted on the face of them. And then I go over to your drawing that shows the blade sign as proposed. It looks like it's going right where a light fixture is.
Yes, we are going to eliminate that light fixture to incorporate the sign. So we plan on using the same electrical that's right behind there.
If I remember correctly, those are both up and down lights, are they not? They throw light both up and down.
I do not know the exact answer to that.
Well, I think that if particularly uplight is going to kind of have a negative impact architecturally on the building if all those columns running along there have you know, light fixtures highlighting the column, throwing light up and down. Then you get to this one that doesn't have one, it's gonna look kind of strange. Is the landlord okay with you taking out that light fixture?
Yes, the landlord has approved.
Yeah, I don't know how other committee members feel about that, but I kind of feel that's a odd solution.
I agree with Doug. I think kind of having a missing tooth on the facade with the elimination of that exterior lighting is a mistake. I think it can still be mounted on that column using that circuitry. But I think if it's side mounted or adjacent to it, I think there's another solution there that's not quite as drastic as removing that lighting. A little nuance to that, I think, would be successful. I also think that 7-inch raceway for that salon loft sign is, if can that be reduced at all? It's a little heavy to me.
The raceway.
Yeah, the height of that, it feels a little heavy.
Okay, I can talk to the customer about that.
Yeah, and if it's a function of the requirements of what's got to fit in there, I think that's, it is what it is. And then I had one more question on how you're actually getting power to the illuminated signs on the west facade, all the letters. I don't see any way that you've identified how you're actually getting all the low voltage out there.
West elevation. All right, I'll have to discuss that with the installer in my company. I don't want to give you guys a wrong answer.
Sure.
Just to satisfy your question. So, if I can get back to you guys all on that.
Do the other tenants in this building have a blade sign in the location that you're proposing for this one?
That's
Seen
a
any?
good question.
Like, my question is there a precedence where those light fixtures have been removed, or that was maybe the intention?
I don't think
The
that's
developer's
the case.
intention.
I don't remember seeing any being proposed.
I just don't know off the top of my head. Like, if everybody has flat signage. I guess the suggestion would just be in relation to that sign, if everybody just be consistent with the signage on that facade. If no one else has a blade sign, then I would suggest eliminating that from the proposal.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, well, it seems like we'd like to see some additional information, in response to our questions here. Would you be amenable to having this item tabled and then come back to us at our next meeting in 2 weeks with some solutions or answers?
That would be fine.
All right, and then someone like to propose a motion to table.
I'll propose a motion to table.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Dan, please call the roll.
All right. Ms. Flaherty, who it turns out is here. We just had to call in, so I don't know if we. Sounds like we still can't hear her. All right, Ms. Lamb,
Yes.
Ms. Marinici,
Yes.
Mr. Persons,
Yes.
and Mr. Wall.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion to table carries. We will be in touch. I guess you can get us updated drawings, renderings, any of that, answer questions that were asked. 1 week in advance of the next meeting and get that into the office for that be on the schedule for the 21st. So You can get us a revised presentation by the 14th. That would be great, but I will reach out for next steps this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So that brings us to our next applicant, case OC 24-09, 4500 Lorraine Avenue, signage for Liberty Home Mortgage. So we have Miss Heffernan here. So Kate, if you want to start your presentation, just let me know when you want me to switch through slides, please.
Absolutely. After having some professional architects and sign people, I am happy to be here as a complete novice, and I shall do my best. So this is so I'm open. I currently have, this is 2017 above Forest City Shuffleboard, which is actually directly next to this new office. So we're just moving to a storefront. So there are some requirements from regulators regarding like size of signs and things like that in general, where we have to be conspicuous. So the first slide is a cover sheet. So you can go to the next slide. And this is just, it's on 45th and Lorraine. There's window front on both sides, but this is just, we're just putting signage on the Lorraine Avenue part. So you can go to the next slide. And this is the current photo of the space. Which I sort of wish I would have done it a little bit bigger so you could see how it ties in with the storefront of the Forest City in general, but you can go to the next slide. And this is the proposed signage. The designer put it as like opaque looking, but that's just because there was like stuff on the windows. So anything that's not a color will actually be a cutout. So it's going to be see-through outside of like the white and the pink and a little of the orange. And then we're adding the address, obviously, on the front here. We're going to leave that door blank because we're not using it because I'm renting both units. And then you can go to the next page. And then this is the door. And you can sort of see what it looks like from, sort of the front of the corner of the street. And then you can go to the next page. These are the dimensions. And you can go to the next page. And I thought I sort of already said this, like the stickers, decals will not be opaque. They'll be like cutouts. And then the specs that I provided and the square footage that was provided is based off of squares because that's just how they charge. However, like each letter is going to be cut out. And then I provided the like architectural designs from the landlord that were provided to me, as well as the specs that were provided from the sign company, Fast Signs. And then I think the next 2 pages are those specs. And that's what I've got.
All right, well, I will ask about the lettering. I don't see, unless it's somewhere in the specs that I can't read 'cause it's too small, are the of the height of the letters themselves for that you're putting in these windows. Is that described somewhere?
Yeah, so in the specs, the total width and height is in this like center overlay, La La Loneland line item. I also provided a PDF version because this is a little bit harder to read. It currently has the width at 78 inches and the height at 58. But again, that was cut as a square, so it's from the lowest point to the highest point. So the whole thing is not that size.
No, I was referring to like the individual characters are those 10-inch letters or 8-inch letters or 12-inch? Do you know, or are you just looking at the overall dimension?
No, I do not know the height of each letter.
Okay, so you have two elements of things. You have the La La Lone Land.
Mm-hmm.
Over on the right side, you have a Liberty Bell that says the actual name of the company. Is that correct?
Yes. So La La Lone Land is the branch. So it's like my branch, and then Liberty Home Mortgage has to be present because that's who hold our license.
I see. Okay, and I didn't see anything about the height of that element. Is that also on one of the pages of the specs? What are the dimensions of that, Liberty?
Yeah, great question. Do you mean like the physical height on the building or the size of that logo?
The size of the logo and the lettering. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what the sign company provided was width 32, height 27.5.
Okay. And how about the stripes that are going across the bottom? Is there?
So I just sort of like those stripes. Like in my office, I have those stripes, and then it also brings in like the Forest City Shuffleboard because it's right next to Forest City Shuffleboard, which is my landlord. So it sort of brings those in, and I just think it like makes it look coherent with the you can sort of see, like over on the top left of this page, like that's sort of how they have their signage, and it goes all the way across the storefront for them. But I'm not absolutely dedicated to those. If you guys don't like them, I just thought it sort of made it all come together.
No, personally, I have no objection to it. I just am trying to.
Oh, were you asking about the size? I'm so sorry.
The dimensions of the stripes, are those like all
Okay.
stripes or 2-inch stripes? I'm just trying to get a better physical
Yeah.
idea.
So they have the whole element as 13 inches. So each stripe would be about, if there's 5 of them, would be between 2 and 3 inches. Probably closer to 2 because there's a gap.
And I see on this elevation, is that like white out? You've whited out certain areas of on the building facade for some reason? That's not something you're proposing to do to the building.
So my designer put that there in case I wanted to write things for this appointment. But no, we're not touching any part of the facade.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
So any place that you're not putting logo is going to remain clear glass. That's correct?
correct. Yes.
Okay.
I think this is good. I think it's really well done and carefully considered, especially next to Forest City. The only thing that I would recommend you consider, and it's just that a consideration, would be the La La portion of your main logo. You may lose the resolution of the bottom of that wording because of its proximity to the mullion. So I would just give that some consideration before you actually install that, and it could be just an installer issue. Just the spacing between that and the word loan below it. That's my only comment.
And do you think if I just say and reiterate those words that you just said to the sign company, they could take that into consideration?
So it just depends on how they're doing the vinyl cut lettering. If it's,
Okay.
You could just tell them to space out the wording
Okay.
between La La and loan, not the letters, but the words.
Okay.
Just make sure that there's enough space between the horizontal mullion that you can read both words.
Fabulous. Yeah, if they can do that, absolutely. I appreciate that feedback because I don't know. Oops.
All right. Any other questions or comments from committee members?
No, I agree with Chris. Looks great.
All right. Would someone care to make a motion then?
Motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Great. All right, Dan, please call the roll.
Sorry about that. All right, Ms. Lamb,
Yes,
Ms. Marinucci,
Yes.
Mr. Persons,
Yes.
and Mr. Wall.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes unanimously. All right, you should be all set. I can handle this administratively from here, so we'll be in touch this afternoon or tomorrow with next steps. But thank you very much, Kate.
Thank
You
you
got
guys
through
for
it.
all of your help. I know, I'm so sorry. Also, just very quickly to lighten the mood, I would like you guys to know I did cry to Daniel on the phone. So he's doing God's work. And I very much appreciate your guys' time. So thank you so much. And if you need a mortgage, you know where to go now. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Good luck,
Thank
Kate.
you. Certainly not the first or last time Landmarks has brought someone to tears, but all right, next up we have case OC 24-10 at 4211 Franklin. So this is for site improvements, including in-ground swimming pool and some sort of fence screening. So it looks like we've got Tyler Hirsch here, and then I'm trying to see, yeah, so we have Tyler as the project representative. There are others for this project. If you could introduce yourself and yeah, walk us through your project. Let me know when you want me to switch slides.
Hey guys, so obviously my name's Tyler and I'm the owner of American Earth Companies, and we are looking to put in a in-ground fiberglass swimming pool for the Sittler residents. And with this presentation, we actually have Nick Dubecki here. He works with us and he's more of the project manager for this specific project. So he's going to run through the presentation with you guys. But if there's any questions, me and him are both here to be able to answer questions throughout the presentation as well.
All right, I unmuted myself. Can everybody hear me? All right, great. So yeah, if you can switch slides. So this shows the customer's lot. They have a very unique double lot in the city here. And they actually went through the process to combine both parcels into one parcel now. So you could see they have the entire corner to themselves, and it's surrounded by 3 different roads here. So it's basically on a peninsula. All the existing landscape that you can see in this overview is going to remain. So if you can switch to the next slide. Kind of a terrible Google Street View with all the construction going on, but you can see how there is a decent amount of screening along this existing fence line here from the street on all sides. Next slide, please. This is the updated plot plan showing the combination of the parcel. Next slide. So here's our layout of how everything will fit on the new parcel. It shows the existing residence, shows the existing detached garage. You could see the pool is going to be situated on the area where the grass is right now, so we won't be damaging any of the landscaping, the foliage, the beds, plant material, anything like that. The next slide, please. So this just shows another view of the existing site condition. Basically from the rear, that van is going to be in the lawn area there where the pool is going to be located in the patio. Next slide, please. Here's just a couple more pictures showing the side of the house. And then on the right, it basically shows looking out towards the street, all of the plant material screening. Next slide. Just a couple more photos. The one on the left is showing up into the property. So part of this blacktop driveway will be removed and replaced with the stamped concrete for the pool deck. And then the picture on the right-hand side just shows looking towards Franklin, how there's a existing fence there too, and plant material along that road side as well. Next slide. So here's our concept of the new pool patio area. You can see as far as colors and style go, I went with something that's really going to blend with the color of the existing house. It's not going to be gaudy. It's not going to stand out. It's going to really look historical and natural. The pool itself is a Latham fiberglass pool. It is gray in color and it's a 16 by 40. Um, and then stamped concrete, obviously, around the entire pool. It's going to be gray in color as well with a charcoal border, just a random stone. Next slide, please. Here's just another view of that rendering of the pool, just to show the layout of it. Next slide. Then here's a view of the random pattern that the customer chose for the stamped concrete. It's going to be just regular concrete, no additive as far as color. And then the antique release is going to be a medium gray. So it's going to give it an antiqued gray look. And then the border will be acid stained, like a dark charcoal color, just to go with the theme. Next slide, please. This is an alternate view that just shows facing west, standing by the house looking out. Okay, next slide, please. And then this is the privacy fence. So they want to do a horizontal slat privacy fence. It's going to be composite, like a dark brown composite wood with black aluminum posts. Now there is obviously a black aluminum fence existing surrounding the property lines. They more or less just want this fence to farther screen the view from all of the roadways to give them a little bit of privacy from the neighborhood. But obviously it's going to go with the theme of the house as well. Next slide, please. And then along the west side property line, instead of a full screened fence, we'll just do these fence panels. And then the plant material will obviously be on the outside of those. So it'll have a nice organic feel with the plant material in between the fence panels, but it'll still allow some light and view to go through those panels. Next slide, please. And then I just made a note that all the existing landscape is going to remain. Any lawn that we damage from the construction process, we will obviously repair around the structure and get it back to how it looks now. So next slide, please. That's it as far as the presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have, the site is pretty flat there, but it looks like your intention is for the perimeter of the pool deck to just match up with the existing grade going around the perimeter of all this. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the way I usually set the elevation of the top of concrete is going to be about 3 inches above the existing elevation. So that way there is a good enough slope away from the pool itself. You never want the water to go into the pool, obviously, but I don't want it crazy high compared to the grade. So we try to find that happy medium of a good elevation for the concrete.
Okay, and are you extending your stamped concrete paving? It looks like back in the area between the house and the garage?
Yeah, so there actually is an existing stamped patio right there now. We're just gonna rip that out and re-pour that with the new colors.
Okay. And regarding the fencing, can you go back to the site plan? I'm not sure if yes, there, okay.
Yep.
But
So you can
now,
you can
it
see it's just
they need to show is there a line on there that represents the line of where the new fence is going to go?
yeah, you can see I have it labeled 6 foot tall stained privacy fence on the north side of the pool patio there. It's
Right,
like
it's just a
a
couple
red
of
dotted line.
and then it goes out to
And then it goes south there, right along that point. Yep.
well, I guess I'm confused because is there that heavy line looks like the property line. Isn't it the diagonal that follows 45th Street, and then it looks like your fence line goes beyond the property line.
I'm not I'm not sure how it rendered that way, but we obviously aren't putting the fence on the sidewalk. I don't know what happened there. So it's gonna stay within the boundary of the fence that's existing there now, the black aluminum that's there now.
Well, first of all, I have a concern that these two fences being so close, looking like they run into each other, is going to look weird. So I would suggest, maybe if you can hold that end of that northern fence back 6 feet or so from the iron fence, it won't look like they're kind of colliding there at that point.
Yeah, that's fine. I actually agree with that recommendation, and that's partially why I switched to the panels with the spacing in them on that side, because I thought the same exact thing.
Okay, and then where, I can't read on here, where is the line of the fence, the new fence on the south?
So
Is that following the line of Tourette Court there, or is it?
So there isn't going to be a new fence on the south side. It's that fence panels are just gonna end at the existing fence there.
Oh, I see. There's no new fencing along the south.
Exactly, yeah. They weren't really concerned with privacy along that alleyway because it's more of an alleyway on Tourette Avenue. They were more concerned with the Franklin traffic.
Okay, I get it. And I think the thing about all of that fence, the panels and the solid along the north, you're proposing is 6 feet tall. Is that correct?
That's correct.
See, I think the zoning ordinance will not permit that height of fence that close to the street anyway. I think maybe I forget how far you've got to be back. I think it's more like 8 feet, because that's going to be taller than the existing fence. The existing fence is I think they got a variance to put it in as tall as it is. 'Cause I think
Yeah.
the existing fence is what, 5 feet maybe?
I'm pretty positive it's actually 6, to be honest. It's a very tall aluminum fence, yeah. I can double check on that though.
All right. Well, yeah, if you would check on that, that would be helpful. And then, so can you better define the dimensions of those panels and the space between them? Are they like 6 foot panels with 2 feet between or something like that?
Exactly, yeah. They're 6 by 6 panels with 2 feet of spacing in between.
Okay.
What is that tree on the west side of the property? Is that a cherry tree? With the wide drip canopy?
Yeah, so actually, unfortunately, this big tree right here on the right-hand picture was hit by lightning a few weeks ago, and it is no longer there anymore. They had to
Okay.
take it down, yeah.
That takes care of that question.
Yep.
Yes, well, ignoring that, what was going to be a comment, I still agree with Doug's comment about pulling that tree or the fence panels to the east off of that existing fence line to give some breathing room between those two. And even without that tree, I think that should be landscaped a little bit to provide a bit of a landscape buffer, and provide a little bit of a detached, private to public buffer there. But that's my only real comment that hasn't been already brought up by Doug.
Yeah, that those fence panels, another thought I have about that is, since they're not connecting as in a solid fence, you've got gaps in there. You might discuss with them taking that side and just treating it with plants. You could just do a landscape screen along there, some shrubbery and so forth, and naturalize that a little bit. I think I would rather have that myself than have the fence panels with the gaps in them, because with the gaps in them, you're not really providing any privacy to speak of. It's more of a decorative element. If you're not adding planting to soften it as a landscape edge, I would rather see plants along that western side of it myself.
Yeah, the customers actually own a very successful floral business in town too. So I believe that the plant material is their expertise. So I'm sure they'll go pretty crazy with making that look nice.
All right, very good. And I guess when you say the wood is going to be, you said that was composite or is it real wood, the
It-
fence that's proposed?
So, actually, that's a good question. You know what? It's going to be real wood with stain and sealer on it, a dark stain.
All right, you don't have a sample of the stain color to show us?
I do not currently.
Uh,
It's
well,
gonna match like that dark oak color.
all right. Well, I can live with passing that along to the Landmarks Commission, but if you're going to take this to Landmarks, or if, Dan thinks he can pass this administratively or something, I'd like to see you, actually propose an furnished color sample of what you're proposing to do with that.
Okay, yeah, I can make that happen.
I don't know if you guys are aware, but these people had proposed a much more grandiose scheme of adding onto the building, which apparently they've now abandoned.
I think so. They're more or less putting the money into the pool now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine with me. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Well, from my side of things, I usually do am on site for most of the project myself, and we've done so many projects like this that the disturbance to neighbors and the community will be very short. We're typically in 3 days or less, that swimming pool is going to be in the ground, full of water and fully plumbed. So our actual timeline for this project is rather quick due to how efficient we've become from doing so many of them over the years.
Well, that's impressive. Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions from committee members?
Do we want to provide kind of a minimum dimension that we want to have this secondary fence pulled off of the existing to the west? Or do we want to just provide a recommendation that it be pulled off and then that be presented to Landmarks?
I'd be okay with 6 feet as long as that satisfies the zoning ordinance.
Zoning, yeah. I would agree with that.
So that far corner would be 6 foot off the existing fence line. That's perfect.
If nobody else wants to, I'll make a motion to approve with the requirement that the west edge of the new fence be a minimum of 6 feet off the existing fence line.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Dan, please call the roll.
One of these days I'll learn how to use this thing. Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. Marinucci,
Yes.
Mr. Persons,
Yes.
and Mr. Wall.
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, the motion passes unanimously. Tyler, I will be in touch, but I think we have you penciled in for Landmarks next week. So in advance of that, I think if you could get this site plan updated so that it, kind of resolve that question of where the property line is versus the fence line, because it gets a little confusing. It looks like maybe I don't know if it's a PDF rendering issue or what, but if you can get that resolved and then, move the fence as the committee required, if you want to do that. And then, I think having a color, photo at the time of the proposal for the fence would be helpful too, but we'll be in touch, this afternoon or tomorrow to, yes, go over anything and see if you have questions. So thank you for your presentation today, both of you.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, next up, looks like we have Susan Broadwater and I think Paul Beacon's here as well for case OC 23-60, 4516 Clinton Avenue. They're here for final approval for a demolition and then the concept presentation for new construction. You guys saw this as concept for both demo and a previous version of the proposed new construction a few months ago. It also went to the Landmarks Commission after that. but they're here, wanting to move forward with the demolition. So I will let them make their presentation, and then after they've done that, I did receive some, comments from OCI and then a couple of committee members who couldn't make it. So I'll share those after the presentation is done. So, Paul, Susan, take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? I know we got this split up into two kind of separate cases, one talking about the existing house, one talking about the conceptual design that we have before you. I think we want to talk a little bit about the house first. I know last time we were in front of you, we had a lot of discussion about the existing house and also provided information about the costs for renovation and demo versus the cost of the new house being proposed and things like that. So I think before I go and represent any of that information on the existing house, are there any questions, or would you want to go through that again?
I think it would be helpful if you just quickly walk through the whole thing.
Paul, I would appreciate, did you guys have any, if you have any new findings pertaining to the history of the house, that would be helpful to highlight, but same with Doug, just a quick walkthrough would be appropriate.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything new other than what we presented last time on the house itself. Let me open this up real quick here, just so I know what slide's coming next. You can move on to the next slide. That's fine. Thank you, Dan. So here are pictures of the existing house and where it is sitting on the site. It's been through many different iterations, most recently as a multifamily house as it was being divided. Several additions that have been put onto the house. The one where the porch is enclosure at the back, not very well put together. There are places where the roof is leaking into the house. There is some foundational damage on this. Again, it's really just the years of neglect and deferred maintenance on this house, it being vacant. Obviously, there's tagging on the inside. There are people been in there. I'm not sure exactly what happened with the previous owner. It looks like they had started doing maybe some demolition work inside the house. Obviously, it's boarded up. As just to help you recall, there is actually a condemnation notice by the city of Cleveland for this structure. We did put together some estimates from some contractors on what it would take to renovate this house back into a useful structure. We go on to the next slide, Dan. Actually, probably not. We can go back just since we're talking about the existing house. So that's kind of it on the existing house, unless anybody has questions.
So just to clarify, the top left picture is the front of the house?
Correct.
The middle picture is the rear of the house, is that correct?
Yes, the next picture is the rear of the house. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is the damage in the house ubiquitous and consistent? Is there one portion of the house, like you mentioned at the back, they opened it up and did some demolition. I would assume that has more water damage than the front but that's an assumption. The roof is leaking. Is there a portion of the house where that leaking is worse than others? Structural damage, is generally confined to certain areas rather than the entirety of the house. Could you just, if you're able, describe some of that piece of the puzzle here?
Yeah, I mean, yes, there are specific locations. I can't, say, hey, the entire foundation is failing and it can't do. Obviously, and we talked about this last time, right? I've done lots of historic renovations and in this neighborhood of old houses that, yes, anything can be fixed. At what cost does it take to be fixed? And then again, with this particular owner, the owner does not have interest in living in a restored old house. Even if the costs were more in alignment with repairing it. So, we kind of have the damage and stuff inside of the house. Again, it is localized to certain areas. On the back, the addition, one of the bigger pieces that the contractor noted when we were out there was, that the way that the roof of the addition was framed, that there's going to be quite a bit of structural work to get that sorted out.
Yeah, if I could jump in, I don't recall who was all on the site visit when we went out to this several months ago, but one thing I noted that was just kind of plays into it, Mr. was asking, was it appears the whole side gable here, that I guess shows up really well here. I think that was added on later, that this was originally just a single gable house, and you can see the rafters and joists up there looked like they were the old rafter tails of the roof that used to end at this edge, and they just sort of, it's called barely sistering, they just sort of nailed other boards to them to extend them. So I do think there would be a significant amount of structural work that we're doing just to stabilize, this portion. I mean, obviously it's Stanley, they put a new roof on it, so it could withhold that strength, but long term, this would be the time to think about those kinds of things. So, yeah, they're, I guess it's in this lower left-hand picture is that room that I was referring to. They've taken out some walls and it's created some really large, I guess, spongy feeling spaces that feel like they probably need some sort of, load-bearing wall underneath them. So.
Something to hold it up. You don't feel very comfortable walking across the floors up there, that's for sure.
Wouldn't want my kids jumping around.
Well, they're lighter than me, so my kids aren't the problem. It's me.
You haven't heard my kids jump.
Okay.
Paul, I have a question. Can you, what was the anticipated cost of restoration or renovation?
$1.2 million.
And what is the cost of the new construction proposed?
$750,000.
And what was the renovation cost based off of? Just existing, just the straight up what's there, or were there more to that scope? Was there more to that scope?
No, I mean, a full scope of restoration, right? Obviously, there's a lot of things with the existing structure that would have to be fixed, put together, restoration of the siding, new roofing, insulation, all the way through, new electrical, new mechanical systems. So it's not just the fixing of the stuff that's there. It's like, all right, turning this into a livable house again. Again, it's a lot of work to do to make all of that happen.
Those are
I don't.
approximately.
What's the cost per square foot then?
Yeah.
Breakdown of that?
I don't know if I have that information.
What are they roughly equivalent square footages of the existing house and what was being proposed?
The new house is a little bit bigger.
I feel, I mean, honestly, that 1.2 million feels pretty inflated to me based on the size of the house and the many projects my clients have done and I have done in this condition. Not saying that it would not be a significant amount. I just think that that particular figure, I'm thinking of all the projects I have getting bid right now or that have been in the last year, and that seems inflated. I would guess my assumption would be that the new construction and restoration prices, purchase price aside, would be comparable in this case. That's just my 2 cents of that number. That's a number I would expect for a much larger property.
Does the new construction cost also include the cost for demolition and abatement that would be associated with it?
Yes.
And what is, are there foundation issues with the existing home?
Yes, there are. There are some portions of the foundation that are more than just repair. There's some parts that need to be replaced as well.
Is that isolated to that addition on the back?
Yeah, there is isolated areas, right? I'm not telling you that the entire foundation needs to be, you got to lift up the house and then redo all of the foundation. Yes, it is. There are specific places where that work needs to be done.
So is this house from a period where there's just like mostly a crawl space and a cistern kind of basement, or is there a full basement under the house?
Yeah, there is a full basement under most of the house. There are some areas that are crawl space too.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a better overall sense of what we're dealing with here, because I kind of follow Antonia's thinking on that sounds like a pretty high number that unless you were rebuilding, taking it down piece by piece and putting the whole house back together seems kind of high.
And here's what I could tell, and I know I'm doing other work in the area as well too. There's another one that I'm sure will be in front of you sometime soon, not far from here, that the house is probably maybe a little bit bigger than this one. They're actually looking at a $1.4 million project for that one. And it has similar issues as far as needing a restructuring of the roof and foundation and basement wall issues and things like that.
Has anyone researched the age of this house? When was it originally built? Do we know any of that information?
I think I'd have to double check, but I think Carl did some research and traced it back to at least some version of it back to the 1850s. I'm gonna say 1856, but I could double check on that. It is one of the older remaining houses on this part of Clinton for sure. It's just been modified and updated as opposed to replaced. Mr. Chair, I do have some comments from Alex Crondolph, who's unable to join us today, and also just got an email from Ms. Flaherty, who was trying to join the meeting earlier, but was having some internet connectivity issues. So she also sent just a statement, opinion she wanted me to read for this case. So I'm happy to do those now, or if you want to wait. I guess we also have a letter from OCDRC. So.
All right, I would like to hear all that. The one additional question I was going to ask is, I guess more for you, Dan, is in terms of researching the history of this house, were there any photos, like we have a pretty clear, pretty heavily documented photographic library from the 50s, anybody dig up any pictures of this house? Historic pictures?
Not that we found, with it looking any different than it does now. It looks like that asbestos siding or whatever is up there has been up there for a while. And whatever changes were made were made some time ago. So yeah, I don't think we've turned up any good clear photos.
Yeah, there, we do have one from 1964. And I know, I know you guys don't want people to share, but I don't know if Dan has it, if he wants to share that particular photo or not.
Yeah, is that in your presentation? Sorry, I just have.
It's not in our
I-
presentation.
When I have the presentations up, I have limited ability to mess around on my computer.
Yeah, no,
So-
that's fine. It was one that Carl found, so there you go.
Oh, there it is. Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so you can see some of the detailing is still present there.
Yeah, and so you could see on the, obviously on the left-hand side of there where the addition was put on and the porch added, right? So this front porch was obviously taken off. They added the side addition and then added the side porch to it after obviously the adjacent house was demolished. And neither of the houses on either side of this house are there now.
All right, well, thanks for bringing that up. I guess unless anyone else wants to question any of those photos, we'd be happy to hear comments from the others that you have there, Dan.
Yeah, let's see if no one else has anything immediately. This will start with Flaherty. She says, our guidelines for the Ohio City Historic District state that in considering demolition, we need to take into account the physical and economic feasibility of rehabbing the structure, as well as, quote, how severely the demolition would affect the cohesiveness of the neighborhood, unquote. Unless significant information is shared, providing that the structure is in, quote, such a state of disrepair that rehabilitating it is economically infeasible. It's also from the guidelines. She believes that the demolition would negatively impact the neighborhood's character. To her, it seems feasible to rehabilitate physically, and if new development is already planned, it seems that it is economically viable as well. She references Alex's email, which I think he sent out to everybody. She states that this is the oldest home on the block, and approving demolition in this instance that rehabilitation is possible would be against our guidelines and set a treacherous precedent. And then Alex states, I think, if you emailed this to everyone, I'll just do a quick summary. It says the current owner bought the house with the expectation of demolition. The demolition law states that you should consider both the presence and condition on the subject property that are dangerous or are detrimental to the immediate area and cannot be reasonably remedied by other than the proposed demolition. That's section 341.08. He cites some examples and says that the conditions can be remedied through restoration. Demolition is not the only solution in this instance. He also cites concern for the precedents that allowing this demo would set. Lists some examples of homes that were in similar or worse condition. They're right on Clinton, and also notes that structural and foundation issues were required or an issue in some of those rehabs, and it's sort of expected in a house that's over 100 years old. Mentions that this is the oldest house on this part of Clinton. Each of the homes he referred to on Clinton Avenue had been condemned or was condemnable, and each one was entirely rebuilt for the next generation to enjoy. But these homes, like 4516 Clinton, needed foundation and structural work, is an unremarkable and unconvincing, he says. He also notes that he says, despite repeated invitations, the owner has not presented at the block club seeking to bypass a long-standing practice. On an issue as significant as this, they, I guess he requests to have this tabled so that they can participate in community dialogue. So to also note that this has not, I did get some emails requesting that this, you know, be postponed until they could go to the block club. The block club process is not technically part of our process, so you know, legally can't postpone this until it goes through that process, although we always encourage people to you know, present to the block club if the block club would like them to. Then I also received this letter from Ohio City Incorporated a couple of days ago. Dear Ohio City Design Review, Ohio City Inc. is concerned about the long-term impact of the Ohio City Design Review Committee recommending the approval of a demolition permit for 4516 Clinton in terms of the long-term goals of historic preservation. While there is obvious maintenance needed on the home, we've seen no evidence that justifies the demolition of this home that sits within the Ohio City's landmark historic district. Several other homes are in arguably worse condition and have been restored on Clinton Avenue and throughout the neighborhood. The continued historic preservation efforts of the OCDRC are important to the preservation and architectural fabric of the neighborhood. They remain open to the possibility of factors existing that may justify demolition, but at this point, we have not been made aware of such factors beyond the desire to replace the home with modern construction. Accordingly, they request that the Ohio City Design Review Committee and Landmarks reject the application for demolition at this time. And it's signed Chris Schmidt, their acting executive, or interim executive director. I think that's all I have. I know it feels like a lot more than on most spaces.
All right, thank you, Dan. I did not, I knew Alex was going to address some of these concerns, so I did not, but I have to agree with both of those, Alex's and also Chris's letter that I don't think we've been presented with enough evidence that this building needs to be demolished, you know, as they both stated. And by my experience from 3 decades in the neighborhood, I have seen a lot worse based on what I see here. I haven't seen enough evidence to warrant approving or supporting demolition of this building, and it particularly being, you know, the oldest building left on the block makes it even more significant, although it doesn't you know, at first glance represent a significant architectural statement on its own. It's a significant contributor to the history of the district. And so far, that's my feeling. I would need to have a lot more evidence to sway my opinion otherwise.
Doug, I agree. I cannot support the demolition of this. We just heard during this discussion that there are people out there who are willing to invest this kind of money to save these houses in this neighborhood. So I think that maybe it's just better suited for a different owner. If the homeowner is not interested in living in a historic house in a historic district, I don't think that it's appropriate to just purchase something with the intent to remove it. In the long-term future of the neighborhood in the district, it will be better off if this can be restored and the history maintained.
I agree with my colleagues, and I see the owner is on the call, is present in this meeting. So for their benefit, I just want to note that we are not, we're sympathetic to the condition of the house and the cost that would take to restore it, and also your desire to live in this neighborhood in a new home. And I hope that you know that it's not personal in any way, and that our job on this board is to maintain the historic fabric of this neighborhood the best we can. And for me, seeing that photo from the 1960s was particularly, sorry about the traffic noise, was particularly impactful because the houses that are also present in that photo are no longer there and have been replaced with new construction that I personally feel is very lackluster. Not that this proposal is lackluster, that's not what I mean. Just it's a good example of why we should be very, very careful with approving demolition in this neighborhood, because we risk losing historic fabric and historic building stock that we now can't get back. So I would also not support demolition of this home, and hope that that is understood by the homeowner.
I agree. Yeah, well said.
Okay, I guess we'll ask for a vote. I mean, obviously, I think we'll take this up again at landmarks. The fact, that this house has a condemnation order by the city of Cleveland is really more the impetus, I think, for the owner purchasing the property. Like, hey, they got a house that the city says needs to be torn down. I'm game for tearing down a house and building a new house in this neighborhood, right? So it's not, oh, I'm scared of restoring a house. It's, hey, when you look at the neighborhood, and again, the city has a condemnation order. Likely, if Landmarks agrees with this board, unfortunately, the owner is going to be probably talking more with lawyers, because at that point, you have a condemnation order, and the city says, hey, you got to tear this house down, and, we're not able to. So we'll have to sort that out. Obviously, I think it's probably more an attorney's thing after this. So I think probably best now at this stage is let's ask for a vote, and then we will move on to Landmarks and see what they may have to say.
Just
to
one
address
more
the
point
condemnation, the
Sorry.
condemnation order can be issued for all kinds of reasons. Even that, hey, there's no plumbing in the house, there's no toilet, there's no kitchen sink. It doesn't necessarily address, I mean, we haven't seen what kind of items are on this, because I at least have not seen a condemnation order. So I don't think it, and you pointed out that there are some structural issues to be addressed, and so forth, and I don't doubt that. And but overall, I don't think, we've seen persuasive evidence that, I think we're pretty much in unanimity on that factor. None of us have been persuaded that there's enough deterioration in this house to just support this case. So yes, if you want a ruling on this, to go ahead and take it to Landmarks, I guess I would ask one of my colleagues if they'd like to make a motion.
And I guess just before you do, just I wanted to make a point of clarification about the condemnation. The condemnation requires, it refers to nuisances, and that the nuisances have to be abated. So, rehab resolves a condemnation as well. It's not saying that the house has to be torn down. That is one option of abating a nuisance, but it doesn't, that's not the end goal of every condemnation notice. It's, just sort of the strongest version of fix these problems we have.
I was going to add the same. I have one question, Dan, as an order of business. If we deny the demolition, do we still review the new construction, or does it go as one package then as a denial?
Well, that's what I was just going to ask Mr. Began, if he still wanted feedback on the new concept. If we move forward with vote, do you want to present that new concept so the committee can see it before we take a vote on this, or how do you guys want to handle it?
I think it probably makes sense not to move forward with that next case then with this one. It would be difficult for me to think that the committee is going to, I mean, if we can't get beyond this, comments on the house, I think, are probably not worthwhile at this time. you know, if we come back, if Landmarks has a different opinion and we have to come back, I think then we'll come back then at that time.
Okay, and just, I guess just so the committee and you're aware, if, I guess when you're presenting the demolition to the Landmarks Commission, I guess they've seen a previous concept of what you're
Yep.
proposing before. You know, they may want to see this, you know, the current concept as it stands. So if you know, if the committee wants to
Understood.
provide feedback on that, or if you want some feedback from them before it goes to that level, the commission may be, you know, seeing this info that you guys won't be looking at today, but it sounds like everyone's looked at it already online at least, so.
No,
I'm
I think
opposed.
we understand it's going to be a multiple step process, right? I mean, we're gonna have to go to Landmarks and see what Landmarks has to say. If for some reason they decide to go in a different direction, you know, obviously we will come back and present to you the new design and then go back to Landmarks again. So I don't think, again, we've been through this before. We know it takes a couple times to go through these. I think that's fine and good and understood.
I'll just add, I'm not opposed. I don't think anyone's opposed to looking at it. It just seems like kind of a waste of everyone's time at the moment until the, you know, the demolition issue gets further along with the landmarks commission.
Agreed. I think we're all agreed on that.
All right, so again, I'll ask one of my colleagues if they'd like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny the demolition request.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I was gonna say Nia's nodding her head yes, but I don't.
Okay, please call the roll, Dan.
All right, okay, who's not here? Ms. Lamb,
Yes.
Ms. Marinucci,
Yes.
Mr. Persons,
Yes.
and Mr. Wall.
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, the motion to deny the presented demolition is passed unanimously. So Paul, I think we have a pencil in to present to the commission on the 14th. I'll double check that date and we'll be in touch about, you know, next steps and confirming that date and all that.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you, committee.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, so that's yeah, that concludes the agenda for today's meeting. Unless I don't know, anyone, Doug, do you have any
I think
chair's report?
I think that would since that concludes our agenda, we can officially conclude this meeting of the Ohio City Design Review Committee. So you can stop recording, but I would like to have a conversation with my colleagues a little bit and you regarding the coming changes to the citywide design review process. You know, I think we all got the email about that.